March is officially here, baby.
Send it in, Jerome!
NCAA tournament not too far away. And may I offer you something that the NBA's regular season has lacked all year long to date? Consequences. There have been no regular season consequences really for anybody yet. Well, welcome to regular season consequences. Because that's what is waiting for the Warriors, not only in their remaining 20 games, but in what they've got here in just the back-to-back against the Clippers. They're in a dead heat for the 5 seed 4. And then you got a friskier than you thought they'd be without Zion New Orleans Pelicans team. And that is the least amount of star power that the Warriors are going to see in their next 8 games. Ray, would you like regular season consequences and star power? Because what the Warriors have in their next 8 games, I don't want to get overly dramatic and say it's the entire year, but this is a massive fork in the road. A massive fork in the road for the Golden State Warriors in their 8-game stretch, because in this 8-game stretch, they hope to see Steph Curry reemerge. They would love to see, obviously, Andrew Wiggins rejoin the party. It's the Clippers, Pelicans, at the Lakers, at Oklahoma City, which is their only road win since the month of January. Then they're at the Grizzlies, who will officially be out for blood. Milwaukee's got the best winning percentage in the NBA. Then it's Phoenix. And by the way, Kevin Durant made his son's debut last night. We'll get into that in just a second. Then it's back to the Clippers, but down in Los Angeles. It's a big slate of games coming up.
Well, it's also the prelude to a 5-game road trip, which could undo everything. Because, as we've said over and over again, they don't do well away from home. And I think whatever they can do now to cushion themselves in case they're still not over that would be handy for them.
I want to live in the moment. I want to keep the show in the moment.
Okay. But there's still a 5-game road trip sitting on their chests.
No doubt about it. That's why March matters. Because
and it matters for more teams than usual.
Sure
because,
does.
like I said, 4 through 13, every one of those games is something the Warrior fans should be paying attention to, not just the Warriors.
We have out-of-town scoreboard watching all over the NBA if you're a Warriors fan. When you're talking about the teams you have to keep the most amount of eye on, I mean, it would be the Clippers and Pelicans, like right there, are in that grouping. The Lakers, obviously, in that grouping. All these teams are up on the schedule coming soon. The Grizzlies, the Suns. I mean, this is all so bunched up. Right now, the 4 seed and the 10 seed are separated by 3 games. That's it. That's it. So this is high leverage basketball everywhere you look. And if you don't get it done in March, if you're unable to build the cushion that, like you said, Ray, could come undone in a 5-game road trip, if you're unable to start finding any degree of success on the road, you're going to put yourself in a position you don't want to be in, because you got the month of March to get right, and then April gives you only 4 games to play, and 3 of them are on the road. So is that a scenario where you just like, oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it, like that's going to be easy? Any game on the road, I don't care who it's against for the Warriors, is a slog. So you got to get right now, because April won't be waiting around to catch you.
No, they are like 9 other teams. They've run out of margin of error. And it's no more complicated than that. They're probably, of the games they have left, and it's 20, if they're 11-9, they probably did okay, because I don't know of anybody, with the possible exception of Phoenix, that is in a position to start pulling away, and that's only because of Durant. I still think Phoenix has some adjusting to do, figuring out who gets the ball and when and in what spots. I mean, there's some adjusting they have to do. But I think at some point, once Durant figures out what he needs to figure out, and Booker and Paul and Ayton figure it out around him, they're the likely 4.
Look,
they might even be a 3. They might catch Sacramento. They're 3 back now.
You have 4 guys who are a handful. Beyond that, Phoenix is going to start losing a concept of depth at some point here. They're not the deepest team, but last night with Durant making his debut, they got a 105-91 win over the Hornets. Durant, 23 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. And this is his not only first game with Phoenix, but it's his first game of any kind since January 9th. I mean, he comes off the table. He is as rusty as he can be. I believe only had 2 real full contact practices with the Suns before he goes out and doesn't lead them to victory. I guess the guy who scored 37 is the one doing that, but that's what makes the Suns officially scary. Ray, they don't have depth, but what they will have is about a devastating 1-2 scoring punch as you can find in Durant and Devin Booker. And then, as you were saying, they got to figure it out, right? How does it all fit? Well, who better to figure out how it all fits than a first ballot Hall of Fame, one of the greatest point guards of all time, which Chris Paul, as annoying as he is all of those things as well. And if you offered Chris Paul at this point in his career, like, hey, dude, all you got to do is run the show. The only thing you're responsible for is which blazing hot teammate to get the ball to, Booker or Durant. He'd take that deal right now. And then you got Ayton just grabbing rebounds. It's all DeAndre Ayton, you play at the rim. Kevin, you don't have to be the 5. Devin, you and Kevin Durant are basically oscillating shots down the field. And the guy who will be choosing who shoots next is one of the wisest, craftiest, veteran SOB point guards the league has ever seen.
And while it is Charlotte, last night's box score sort of explained that. Durant played less than 27 minutes, still had 23. Paul shot only 8 times, but had 11 assists. And Ayton, almost fouled out, but he had 16 rebounds in 33 minutes. So that's basically how they're going to do this because, as you said, they are profoundly undeep. So they just have to keep those guys healthy.
Yeah, they're top heavy. They are top shelf liquor. Right now, the Warriors, they're trying to get out of the well. We know that they've got talent. We know that they can basically sit around and play. We can score with anybody in this league game. The question is, what will they do defensively? Bob Myers was on the executive show yesterday. It was JD and Guru who were in on the Steiny and Guru time slot. And here's what Bob Myers had to say about this team feeling like they have turned a corner without even 2 of their most important pieces back in the room yet.
Man, I hope so, because I feel like we've been in this place a few times this year, and Lucy kind of pulled the football. So I got caught up in times where I thought, this is the time. We're going to go on a... There was a moment when we lost to that, I think, Brooklyn team. I thought, even though we lost to Boston, when we went to Cleveland and won that night after losing to Boston in overtime, I thought that was going to be the beginning of something. Because even though we lost that Boston game, we played well, and we should have won that game, and it was a symbol, I thought, of what we could be. And then we kicked that Brooklyn game. I mean, obviously they took it, but I've had moments where I've thought we were turning that, and this is another one. So I do think at some point we got to sustain something.
So he's right. And I want to go back to the first moment where we thought, here is the first official turn the corner moment. And that's when we started keeping track of the final 35 games of the year, which started ticking. That clock started ticking, Ray, with a win over Memphis, January 25th, 122-120 at Chase Center. It felt dramatic. It felt like a statement. It felt like a win over an up-and-coming, scrappy Memphis team that was playing the Warriors as hard as they were going to play anybody because, we can throw out the records when these two teams play. They don't like each other, and that's officially where it is. And we said that they needed to be great in their final remaining 18 home games, and in their 17 remaining road games, they had to at least be somewhat representative. Well, they played 9 of those 18 remaining home games, and they're 8-1. We said they needed to go at least 14-4 at home. Their 17 road games, we said they got to go at least 5-12. Well, they're 1-6 out on the road, with their only win coming in Oklahoma City since we have started tracking the final 35 games of the year. The Warriors, basically, it remains what we said. They kind of have to win out sort of at home, or they need to do something on the road that they have not done all year, and they're going to have a big East Coast 5-game stretch, which, by the way, is brutal. It's like 7 games in 4 days at one point. Right?
Yeah, they have a couple of doubleheaders in there.
Yeah, they really do. They got to go 19-16 in their final 35 to get to 42-40 on the year. And as we brought up with Steve, which he did not like me bringing up the last time I told it to him, in my last conversation with Steve, I heard you had a much nicer conversation with Steve than my last conversation with Steve.
He likes Whitey.
Who doesn't? To tie the 1978 Washington Bullets for the worst NBA regular season record to ever produce an NBA championship, the bottom line, the least of admission is 44 games. The Warriors need to close 21-14 in their final 35 games to reach the bare minimum entrance an NBA champion has ever allowed. And so if you think the Warriors are good enough to not only be playing against NBA history and their opponents, then I guess it doesn't matter. Just get into the playoffs, you get in as the 10 seed and start winning it all because you flip a switch. I don't think that's the way it's going to work this year. Can the Warriors win a championship? I guess so. They have more house credit built than any team I've ever covered. You can't count them out until they actually get eliminated. But, man, it is whatever you got, Golden State Warriors, you got to show it in the month of March. Here it is. There is, like you said, they're all out of tarmac. It's either time this plane flies or crashes at the end of the runway before it even gets off.
Yeah, and it's because it's true for 9 other teams. I think you're going to see a lot of we're 5th one day and we're 9th the next with all these teams. I don't think you can look at anybody and say, yeah, I know where they're going to end up.
No.
I mean, really, there's Denver, then there's Memphis. And at the other end, it's San Antonio and Houston. Everything in the middle is very much in play for everybody, not just for Golden State. And the only team that I would say is probably in deep trouble, other than the Spurs and Rockets, are the Lakers. Without LeBron James for at least 3 weeks, and probably more, I don't know how they win. I mean, we've seen...
It's going to take a lot of Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah, they're going to take about 4 Jared Vanderbilts. I think they are more dependent on him than the Warriors are on Curry. And that's true because without Curry this year, the Warriors are 12-12. So, like I said, if they defend, then it means they're going to be okay. That will be the litmus test for me because they can't continue to give up 125 and 126 and hope to get 127 or 128. It's a loser's game for them. They have to be as good a defensive team as they were last year when they only averaged giving up 103.
You brought up the 12-12 record yesterday with Steve when you and Whitey talked to him, and here's what Steve had to say.
It tells me that our guys have been fighting like crazy and that they deserve a lot of credit. I know it's been a season where there's been plenty of criticism, lots of it justified, but I think it's important to see how guys have responded to the adversity too. And we've had a lot of guys who have really stepped up and played big minutes for us and played well. Last night, yet again, another great Dante DiVincenzo performance, and Lamb and Kuminga and Ty Jerome all coming off the bench and playing well. And we're getting a great version of Klay Thompson. I think this is the best he's looked in the year and a half now since he returned, or whatever it is, 14 months. So we're with a lot of really positive signs, and the guys are hanging tough. I mean, 12-12 without Steph, and also Wiggs for, I would think, the majority of those 24 games. So it's exciting to see them do it.
I mean, let's say a few things about what Steve just copped to. Number one, a lot of the criticism is founded. He said that. Like he said, a lot of the criticism that has been put at my feet or on our mantle is not just, unreasonable fans shaking fist at clouds screaming in the air. I mean, if you want to criticize this team defensively, you've been spot on, and Steve has been one of the biggest critiques of this team's lack of defense so far this year. So he's on board with the reality check that a lot of people have been screaming about. He's also right when saying, how many NBA teams really could play 500 ball when they're down 1.5 of their best players. It feels like that's a good way to bill Steph Curry and Wiggins missing so much time.
I think you could probably say it's 2 of their best players.
Sure.
I mean, Wiggins has been too important, even though his year has not been up to last year's standard.
He still flashes in moments where
he flashes in moments, and the fact that he is steady and reliable on a team that is neither.
It adds value for sure. Bob Myers was asked yesterday if there was like a chance Andrew Wiggins doesn't return to the team.
I don't think so. Look, I don't want to speak on his personal life, and I know you don't either. I know you're not asking that. I don't think that's what anybody is planning for, but we'll leave that in his own place. But as far as to answer your question the best I can, that's not the expectation. I think what you're asking is, could he remain out for a long, long time? I don't think that's happening, but I'm going to leave that alone. And hopefully when he gets back, whatever words he would like to say on it, which I don't think will be much because it's his private life, he will do. But I understand in your business you have to ask these questions and it's your job. But I also got to respect, and I think you're saying the same thing, the privacy of what he's going through.
And it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. How do you walk on that balance beam? It's tough. I mean, he has already been away from the team longer than most people who are allowed to leave a team for personal reasons need. Normal. I mean, I don't want to speculate. I don't. But normally personal reasons means there was a death in the family or there's a sick someone, and this is personal stuff. Andrew Wiggins plays it all close to the vest as it is. I mean, he is not putting his business out on Front Street really for anyone at any time. It's not his personality. He's a quiet, reserved guy. This team needs him. This team needs him. So the question needs to be asked. The respect needs to be paid. The privacy needs to be honored. But this is a very important piece that is missing from the puzzle in the most important month of any puzzle construction the Warriors will be facing. So it's as big of a question to be asked in sports right now. Where is Andrew Wiggins? How quickly can he rejoin? We have a little clarity for the first time on Steph Curry, where it really sounds, Ray, that the back-to-back that the Warriors are starting tonight and finishing tomorrow against New Orleans are among the last couple of games Steph Curry's going to miss. It sounds like his return is imminent.
I'd go with that, except that they are so conservative medically that I could easily see this stretch out a few more games after that because they want to make sure.
Well, they keep buying themselves some wins.
Well, they do tend, especially with somebody like Curry, who's missed chunks of time the last several years, to be maybe even more conservative than he would like them to be. They're always willing to lean in and go, yeah, you seem ready and you look ready, but we're not convinced you're ready. Relax.